let's draw some compositions. If you're new here, my name is Faye, and I'm a character illustrator. So for today, I'm going to be doing some composition illustrations, studying compositions and applying them to fully illustrated illustrations. So in preparation to recording this video, I went ahead and watched 2 YouTube videos and then decided I'm going to figure out myself and started to do thumbnail sketches of different compositions. So let's go ahead and go to my sketchbook. So here are the thumbnail sketches that I did. So I just mapped out what all of the compositions were, and I also looked at references of them being applied in art. Obviously we have some classic ones, the rule of thirds, the golden ratio. And then on the side here, I decided to write down a list of illustrations I wanted to try to do, because a lot of these from the list I'm a big fan of, but I haven't done full illustrations of them besides like character portraits, and I want to try to do illustrations. This is what I did to plan everything out. So let's jump right into it and let's go to the screen recording. Okay, voiceover Faye here. So we are starting on the first illustration, and I decided to use the rule of thirds for this illustrations because I haven't actually done a rule of thirds composition before in a fully done illustration. Maybe I have done it subconsciously. See, that's the kicker. I wanted to tackle these so that I'm not doing it subconsciously, but I'm doing it more intentionally. So I decided to do a Princess Zelda and Link illustration. I love The Legend of Zelda, and I really wanted to draw Zelda's blue dress. I really like this blue dress. It's one of my favorites that Zelda has in Breath of the Wild. And so in some clips you will see that I keep applying the rule of thirds template on top of it, making sure that everything fits right and in place of where I want things to be. So essentially what the rule of thirds is there are 3 points, and with those points, the focal point is there. So I make sure I have one on Zelda, one on Link, and then I have another one on the background, and then you'll notice there's a 4th point on it as well, which I kept looking at various different references, both in other illustrations and photography, and I kind of realized that a lot of the times, either if there is a background, the background or horizon line will be on both of those points, or if there's a bigger subject, it'll take up 2 of those points. So that's what I did with Zelda, since the angle, she's a little bit further away, so I made her like a little bit smaller but taller. And obviously Link is kneeling down, so it fit perfectly with, hitting where those points are, and it worked out perfectly. And then you'll see that the last point points to the trees in the background, and so then you have that perception of depth, and it's like, okay, so you go from Link to Zelda to the background and it flows perfectly. And so relatively, for composition wise, it was pretty easy. I think this illustration took me about 2 days, which in hours probably took me maybe 4 hours to do. I typically do like sessions, and so I'll take a break, and a lot of these clips run about, I think the longest is 55 minutes, and then everything else is like 20 minutes, which you can tell the spurts of these breaks, I guess. So relatively it didn't take me all that long. I probably would say like 4 to 5 hours with breaks, and so in days wise it probably took me about 2 days. I didn't include the sketch process, and the reason for that is I had to lock in. I was like, okay, this dress is so detailed that I want to make sure that I get it right. And so I have the Breath of the Wild art book, so making sure I looked at reference from there and screenshots, and I was really making sure that I got every detail of this dress, because it's the first time I'm drawing it and I really wanted to like get everything in there. I really had fun rendering the dress because there was so many different pieces to it, and I had a lot of fun doing that and adding different colors to it. I like to sometimes, when there's a navy blue, add purples or reds just scattered around in it because I think it just looks really pretty. There was a lot of moving things around. As you'll see, there's Link and Zelda will be smaller because I was like, okay, they're going to be further away in the distance because I plan to have at least 4 planes of, I guess, depth, right? So I have like these rocks, which later turns into bushes. I have the planes, and I had to resize Link and Zelda a couple times because then when I was looking at photographs and other illustrations of the rule of thirds composition, I then realized how they were expanding some objects so that it would hit the second point that's above the bottom points, right? Because they're both in line with each other. I was like, okay, then I can make them bigger, and so then I made them bigger, and so there was a lot of moving around things and figuring things out. I haven't really done a lot of greenery and like doing grass and things like that. I have a few experiences in doing them in illustrations, but not enough to where I was like, okay, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I just kind of figure it out as I go, which I think is the name of the game, but I was like, okay, and so then I had to look up videos for that, and then once I got that, I got it from there. I mean, there's always room to improve in that, especially since I don't necessarily do a lot of greenery backgrounds. Sometimes it's just skies. Oh, and I really loved doing the embroidered, I think it's embroidered, I don't know, the design on the white under pieces of Zelda's dress. I really enjoyed doing that because it was so subtle and so soft, but it added so much texture that I really loved doing it. And I had to look at a lot of different references for that piece specifically, as well as the gold like handcuff things that she wears. I don't know what the correct term of what that piece of jewelry is, but I really enjoyed doing both of those because I think it added so much. And rendering the gold pieces too was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed doing that because I don't know, like just like this light was shining, it was going perfectly with where I had the light source coming from. It added so much, I think, and it was fun to do as well. And it relatively took like all but 5 minutes to render, which sometimes when there's a lot of jewelry or other designs, I feel like it takes me a long time, but this one didn't take me all that long. It's just there was a lot of other gold pieces, and I didn't think I had to like try to figure out what colors I was using and how to make it look three-dimensional. It flowed really nice. I think everything in this illustration flowed really nice, and there wasn't like hiccups along the way, except me trying to look up videos on how to, like draw or render a bush, but I got it. So I did different things, and you'll see later on too that I changed the colors. Like right now it's like spring, like midday almost, and then it like changes and then I change it back. I think the background is what took the longest, and I think I had the longest breaks in between when I last did it and when I started to pick it up again, because I was just a little stuck on the background. But once I kind of figured out the direction that I was going and watched a couple of shorts, I didn't watch full-on YouTube videos, just watched shorts to get an idea on how to really go about doing the background. It flowed really well. Can't complain about that. But yeah, this is how it turned out. I also didn't film the background process because, like I said, it was ups and downs, and I erased a lot and I deleted layers because it just wasn't turning out the way that I wanted. But just know there was trial and error, and I had to lock in. So anytime I kind of don't film something, it's because I'm really locked into it and I have to like focus. And oftentimes I forget because I'm so focused on it. Anyways, this is how it turned out. I really enjoyed doing this one, and I think it turned out really well. But let's head on to the next composition. Okay, for this one, we are going to be using the triangle composition method. I saw a few different ways on how to do this. Either each point had an element to it that it would lead your eye, or there was also a way that the characters would be looking in a way that it would show the triangle. So we're going to experiment with this and see how it goes. Now, for this illustration, I wanted to do some OC drawing. So here's an illustration that I did of my two main characters, Finian and Lumi. So with this triangle composition, there's a lot of ways that I have seen people approach this composition. One way is what I like to call the focus. So there could be 3 different elements. So it could be a tree in the distance, and then it leads to like a train and then a house, and it's in a triangle composition. Another way that I saw it was gaze. So the eyes of characters would lead into a triangle shape. And the third way I saw was everything is shoved into a triangle. So the lines of everything is within the triangle shape. So how I approached this one was I went for things being squished into the triangle shape, and you'll see the added element that leads to the triangle shape. It doesn't make much sense when I try to explain it, but you're gonna see it come together. So these are my OCs. I was kind of having a little bit of an off day with drawing. For some reason, I couldn't get my characters to look like my characters. We got there in the end. With the Zelda illustration as well, I didn't record some of the process because I locked in so hard because I was trying to figure out stuff that I completely forgot to hit record, because I would be like, okay, I'm gonna take a break, and then I would have an idea, and then I would try it, and then I'd take a break. So yeah, I just completely forgot to record that. So you're gonna see it when it doesn't look the best, and then you'll see it actually what my characters look like. I don't know why. I was having such a hard time. I don't know with the pose. I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. I still don't know what the issue was, but yeah, now you're gonna see what they actually look like as my characters and not whatever I did before. But I wanted everything to be at a night sky. This just goes with the story that I have created and the kind of scene that I have. Everything's at nighttime because everything's with the stars, and everything is supposed to be very glowy, and there's a lot of glow elements, so everything is primarily dark. I like to use a lot of pre-existing backgrounds for my OC illustrations just because I have already done them. So why do I need to redo them every single time when it's kind of in the same scenery anyways? Sometimes I tweak things or add things. Like this one, I decided to have the grass really like in your face just to show some distance from the characters and the viewer. So there's like a foreground, and then they're in the middle ground, and then there's like a background and technically another background. But wanted to just play around with some OC illustrations because I had this idea for actually a very long time, probably since 2023-ish. I sketched this idea that I wanted my main characters to be in a field, and Finian has the star in his hand and it's glowing. I wanted to really make an illustration of that. I don't know, I just had this idea in my head. It goes with like a whole story. I don't know if I want to explain the whole story right now, but yeah, there's a story that goes kind of with the stars and exactly what the stars are to the two main characters. This story is actually in development. There's not like anything set except the kind of star system that I have. So everything of like how the stars operate, that's kind of solidified. And specifically, like I can say this one because I have Finian titled as this, the boy who collects the stars. He's a star collector, so all the stars that fall from the sky, he collects them when they are on the ground. So that is all solidified and great. But back to the illustration. So I did do the composition where everything's squished into the triangle, and then I also have a second way that I used the triangle composition. Like I was saying, that there's the gaze, so it is that as well. So it goes from Finian's to Lumi's to the star, and they both connect because they're looking at the same thing at the bottom. So it's upside down triangle, like it's flipped, because technically the point is the star that's in Finian's hand, and then it goes to the gaze of the two main characters. And I'm really glad that I incorporated it this way, because with the star above, it does create the triangle where they fit inside of the triangle, but then it also adds emphasis to the viewer that they're looking at something. So really, it's in the center of them. That's like the main focus, and I think that's awesome because it creates a path for the viewer to kind of follow, where it's like, oh, you're seeing the gaze, you're seeing that they're looking at the star, but then the star above them that creates the triangle that they sit inside, you kind of expand outwards into the blue, and then you can see it from a more pulled back perspective. Like you see it really up close at first, and then you see the whole picture. Really like this illustration. I thought it came out super cute. Even though it was a rough start, like I did have to start and stop. And also, like I said, I did forget to record because I would get an idea of, oh, maybe this is what's wrong with it, and then I would mess with it, and then I would take a break. So yeah, there's a lot of recording that I didn't record. This happens actually quite frequently because I do the stop and start, and the reason for that is because I can get very frustrated and then I just don't want to do it at all. So I like to take it in chunks rather than, yeah, let's just figure it all out right now, and then I end up never really figuring it out, and I just kind of go, okay, yeah, that's it. Sometimes I even have to redraw it. Like I'm pretty sure I had to redraw a lot of the character again because it's just the faces weren't completely right, and it just looks so off. Like even now looking at the recording of it, it just looks so off. I'm like, those aren't my characters. It's like they're other characters but in my character's clothes, and I don't like that. But now you can see kind of more of what they actually look like. I don't know what the issue was. It wasn't happening that day, and that's okay. Sometimes you just have days like that as an artist where it just won't happen under any circumstances, which is a good sign that it's probably time to take a break, because I think I did this one right after, or close, like maybe a day in between, maybe a day or two in between the Zelda one. And I probably, thinking back on it, I should have taken just a little bit longer break, maybe like an extra day or extra 2 days, just to be on the safe side that, you know, I'm ready to get back into it. But I really like how this one turned out, because it shows them together and like how they interact together, which I don't have an illustration of, and so this was the first. And I really like it. They're so cute. I love them. They're like my pride and joy. This is the final illustration of my OCs using the triangle composition method. There's definitely going to be a part 2 on this, so if you want to see any of the other compositions, definitely be on the lookout for a part 2. If there's a composition that you are really wanting me to try out, leave that in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye!